Hey, George.
Hey, Nick.
Sorry to interrupt this episode of Reslayer's Take, but we have to tell the people about ButcherBox.
Oh, yeah. Listen, friends, we only do ads for sponsors we think are great, and ButcherBox is on our good list.
ButcherBox sent us each a customized box of high-quality meat, and they were so freaking good. It's so convenient having a box of incredible meat in your freezer without ever having to step foot in a grocery store.
And the greatest part? This antibiotic-free and humanely raised meat comes with plenty of curated tips and recipes. So whipping up awesome dinners is a cinch.
These prices are impossible to beat for the quality, and where the heck else can you get free protein for a whole dang year? Not the grocery store. So sign up at butcherbox.com/reslayer and get our special deal.
ButcherBox is offering our listeners a free for a year offer plus an additional $20 off. Choose chicken breast, salmon, or ground beef free in every order for a year. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/reslayer and use code RESLAYER to choose your free for a year offer, plus $20 off your first order.
Let's get grilling.
Oh, you guessed it, it's George, and I'm here to tell you about a new amazing podcast that you are going to love from HeadGum. In this improvised narrative role-playing podcast called Rude Tales of Magic, you will join artists, writers, comedians, all from Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, Comedy Central, Marvel Comics, and more as they fight and fumble their way through this madcap and exceedingly rude fantasy wasteland of Cordelia. Branson Reese and his Jester's retinue, Christopher Hastings, Carly Minardo, Tim Platt, and Joe Lepore, as well as Allie Fisher, star as a group of unlikely survivors: a talking crow, a lich in a wig, a bubbly fawn, a Sasquatch punk, and a tiefling hunk, who must solve the mystery of Polaris University's vanishment and return balance and higher education to their world. It's going to be very hard and very, 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 very rude. Whether you're a longtime lover of the series or a newbie to Cordelia, this tale is one you definitely don't want to miss. Subscribe to Rude Tales of Magic on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Enjoy!
Welcome to the Reslayer's Take. I'm George Primavera.
And I'm Nick Williams. In this podcast, George and I lead a group of players through an exciting improvised adventure in Exandria, the magical world of Critical Role.
We're playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but you won't need to know the rules to follow along. All you need to know is that nothing the players do is scripted or planned, and their fates are determined by their own cleverness and the random chance of rolling a 20-sided die.
You can listen to new episodes of the Reslayer's Take every Monday, anywhere you stream podcasts.
Or if you want to listen to the podcast 2 weeks early and uninterrupted by ads, join Beacon at beacon.tv.
Last but certainly not least, if you're enjoying the story, please consider leaving a rating and review. Your feedback might inspire someone new to join this adventure.
Now, without further ado,
welcome to the Reslayer's Take.
For the first time in a long time, it begins to rain in the Utispire Mountains. The Reslayers gather outside of the goblin village known as the Hug Hive, at the entrance outside at the mountain's base. Several of Freedom Windsong's attendants saddling up miniature horses.
A gift to express our gratitude. The Reslayer's Take are always welcome in the Hug Hive.
Oh, wow. I've seen horses before, but never ones this size.
Frog draws as detailed a picture of these miniature horses as she can in her journal.
The miniature horse next to Frog seems to look at her with a great deal of apprehension.
Hi.
Noticing the beast's apprehension, Hira attempts to calm it so that it warms up to Frog.
There. This is your friend, Frog.
Hira uses thaumaturgy to create the sound of whinnying and says,
Try to pet it now, Frog.
Frog cautiously reaches out her hand towards the miniature horse.
Roll an animal handling check with advantage.
9.
It doesn't bolt, but it still looks a bit nervous, probably because of just how much it looks like Frog weighs. Freedom Windsong appears in the entranceway.
I feel truly blessed to have met you all. Thank you for your hope and your healing. Now, good luck out there, and kick some bony butt!
Thanks, Freedom. We'll miss you.
Poogs mounts up one of the miniature horses.
Ear Devourer, the cat-sized spider, peeking out of his pack.
Farah looks around to see if she can see the red smoke that was tracking the Timberblight.
It takes Farah a moment,
but she looks up into the sky. The red gas disappears above the cloud line as rain begins to drop onto Farah's spectacles. But the Timberblight's words echo in your mind.
All will be made like a dead man's table.
Timpani walks up and puts a big meaty hand on Farah's shoulder. Don't worry about that, Farah. I know the way.
Farah nods and heads to the horse that seems a little wary of Frog, giving a chance for Frog to find a more unassuming horse.
Frog, walking to the next horse, its eyes going wide, will make another animal handling check.
As Frog approaches the next miniature horse, she reaches into her knapsack and pulls out her small piece of Big Bertha, the fish.
The horse sniffs it, eats it enthusiastically, and acquiesces to Frog.
Thank you.
Frog slowly hops onto its back.
The horse shifts for a moment under the weight and then straightens.
Edrin looks over to Frog. I'm really, really glad you're okay.
Yeah, me too. I should thank you because I wouldn't have made it out of there without your bravery keeping me up. Until I got knocked out again, but that just seems to be the trajectory of most fights for me right now, and I think that's okay. I'm working on it.
I don't think you'll be working on it for too long.
What do you think, Timpani? Do we take the whole journey with the horses, or should we try to go find that tree?
Timpani, mid-conversation with his own pony, looks up. Well, nothing actually can grow at the top of Dead Man's Table, so I can get us to the base, but we'll have to climb up. The ponies might be a better entrance, but we'll have to use roads, so he might see us coming.
And I know it'll take a lot longer. Probably a couple of days. What do you guys think?
You know, I think we've surprised this being with our strength. If we give it time, it may animate some other remains, and then it will be more difficult for us to take it down. I know that we are tired, friends, but I think the end of this nightmare is in sight. I think we should strike at it before it can defile the remains of yet another creature.
I'm a little spent, but I think Hira's right. And I trust you all. If you think we can do this, then I say we do this.
Hira hops up onto her dark black miniature horse.
Your fire was so bright, I even saw it, while my mind was not my own. I think you can do it.
Goodbye, Brother Poogs! You're always welcome back at home.
And the party begins to slowly walk through the Utispire Mountains as the rain falls harder and harder, making their way back to the tree that Timpani, during his bout of Mind Inferno, launched himself through without warning. It takes about an hour. The Reslayers are able to rest, sitting quietly atop their horses, regaining all of their hit points. Except Frog, who is brought to 40 hit points. The party reaches the twisted tree.
Timpani hops off, giving his small horse a loving pat. All right, Thunderhoof, take your pals home.
And as each of the Reslayers dismount, the horses turn and head back to the Hug Hive.
Timpani walks over to the tree, brings his hand up to knock, and then turns to the group. Before we get into all this, I just want to say thank you all for believing in me and coming along when nobody else would. I can't tell you how many times I tried and failed to do something like this with the wrong people. And when it's right, you know right away. And that's how it was with all of you. So thank you.
Timpani, as many times as we've been in mortal danger of these past few days, they've still been some of the best of my life.
If I could cry, I'm pretty sure it would happen right now.
Looking at her party, Frog turns to Timpani and pulls out her journal.
So Timpani, I just want to double check that we're going to the Dead Man's Table, and whatever we come up against might have been because of that evil druid who tried to make a deal with forbidden magics and became one with rot?
I don't think what we're coming up against is gonna be because of Putridius Festerkin. I think it's gonna be Putridius Festerkin.
Not making eye contact with Timpani, Hira says absentmindedly, "Well, you know, we have the opposite of rot." Hira gestures to Idrin. "We have innovation." Hira nods a horn at Frog. "We have a spirit of discovery." Hira puts a hand on Farah's shoulder. "We have the knowledge of the ages." Hira turns her gaze to Poogs. "And we have endless optimism." And finally, Hira looks at Timpani. "Timpani, I know that, you know that I don't like you, but we had to do one fight without you, and, I missed you. But if you ever tell anyone this, bad things will happen to you."
There is literally no one else I would tell but you guys.
And don't forget, she slaps her hand on Hira's shoulder. We have Hira the hopeful.
Timpani turns back to the tree, a smile on his face, and opens the portal.
All right, time to die.
And the Reslayers step through. Back into the Vesper Timberland, where it's raining twice as hard. Though it is mid-morning, the clouds obscure the sun, and the landscape is unusually dark. Looming above the party, hundreds of feet high, the flat-topped plateau of Dead Man's Table. 100 feet from the top, the evergreen trees cease to grow, and instead, black, shriveled vines dangle uselessly on the cliffside.
Got a heck of a climb ahead of us, guys.
Hira nods in agreement with Poogs and begins climbing up the mountain deftly, her hooves finding perfect nooks and crannies with which to stabilize herself.
Hira, roll an athletics check.
26. She leaves pitons behind as she goes to help her party up behind her, securing a lead rope to herself and tossing it down. "Come on up, the weather's horrible, actually."
Everybody make either acrobatics or athletics checks with advantage.
11.
20.
Natural 20.
19.
Poogs rolls an 8, but Frog is easily able to scoop him up, and Farah is assisted by all of her party pulling her up the mountainside.
All right, cool, we all made it.
The Reslayers get themselves over the cliff's edge, staring forward at a field of necrotized plant life. And as they begin to slowly journey upward, lightning arcing through the clouds, a voice is carried on the wind.
When I came to Vesselheim in search of Osissa and her Slayer's take all those years ago, I was told I'd be forced to prove myself, and I did far more than that. I achieved a power that made each member of the Take wither in comparison. And what did the Sphinx do then? Cast me out. Bade me ne'er perform another ritual in the Vesper Timberland, lest she strike me down. And she did just that. She ruined my final ritual, my ascendance beyond mortal form, to live forever in the glorious rot. I took each one of their precious little trophies, and I turned them against them, giving them new life within the decay, an opportunity to take their revenge. And then ye pathetic rejects had to get in the way and launch a laughable attempt to stop me. Well, that all ends tonight. Tonight, the Slayer's Take dies once and for all.
It's a good thing we're not the Slayer's Take, then.
Yeah, we're the Reslayers Take.
And we're married to that.
As the party hikes upward, they see what is waiting for them atop the dark, black slab of rock that is Dead Man's Table. A shapeless apparition of purple necrotic energy glows and soon begins to form a tall, lithe body, semi-translucent, surrounded by black spectral spores, projecting the elvish face of the Timberblight of Dead Man's Table.
There you are.
Farah aims and shoots twice.
The spectral bolts fire forward, but as they reach the border of Dead Man's Table, they disappear.
You'll have to come up here and face me yourself.
Timpani gets up to his feet on the edge of the plateau and unzips his barn coat, ready to access all pockets, full of weird natural components. I got your back, Reslayer's Take.
Hira ascends to the top of the table and assumes a 3-point stance low to the ground with her rapier hilt in her mouth.
Frog steps up onto the table, and she clasps her fists tightly.
I can't wait to write about this in my journal.
Edrin walks towards this figure with no hesitation.
Edrin's beads pulse as he walks past each of his companions, giving them each 4 temporary hit points.
Farah charges forward, itching to get a crossbow bolt off on him.
And finally, Poogs steps onto Dead Man's Table.
I said I'd never use this again.
And he pulls out his old stabbing knife.
But you deserve it.
Let the blood flow.
And now for a brief intermission.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, George. Are you looking for more actual play podcasts? Well, there's never been a better time to jump on board with The Adventure Zone, the RPG podcast from the McElroy family. They're doing shorter seasons and campaigns now, so there are new stories more often, and it's easy to catch up if you come in late. Right now, Griffin McElroy is GMing a story for his brothers, Justin and Travis, and their dad, Clint. They're using D&D 5th edition, the same game system as the Reslayer's Take, so it should sound pretty familiar. It's called The Adventure Zone vs. Dracula. And yes, these guys are going to take down Dracula. Hopefully. Find out by subscribing to The Adventure Zone wherever you listen to podcasts. And tell them George sent you. Hello, Halflings! George Primavera here to tell you about 3 Black Halflings, a conversational comedy podcast hosted by Jasper Cartwright, Olivia Kennedy, and Jeremy Cobb. 3 nerdy friends with strong opinions and even stronger charisma scores. Having grown up in different corners of the world, they bring a diverse range of perspectives as they talk about their experiences as people of color in pop culture fandoms, D&D, and the TTRPG community. Born of a love of all things nerdy, all 3 of them share personal and often hilarious stories, challenge typical fantasy tropes, and tackle diversifying fantasy, all whilst discussing the things they love. From Lord of the Rings to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, playing your first tabletop role-playing game, or advice for seasoned adventurers, there's something for everyone. They've brought on an array of guests from all around the roleplay community and beyond, including Christina Ariel, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Jake Hurwitz, Lou Wilson, and many more. The list goes on and on. Join them in their quest to explore diversity in the incredible worlds of D&D and pop culture through thought-provoking conversations and good times. Subscribe to 3 Black Halflings on Apple, Spotify, Pocket Casts, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. So long, Shire folk! What's up, everybody? It's George from the Reslayer's Take. Hey, do you remember that feeling of your first critical hit? Or are you one of those people who are getting ready to start their first journey? I have a show for you. It's called Girls Who Don't D&D, because none of this all-female team of players had ever joined a D&D game before, or any other role-playing game. They go from learning which dice is what to challenging the gods themselves. They are surrounded by a beautiful and chaotic environment that has been described as a cross between Terry Pratchett's Discworld and Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's a world you can be a part of too. That's because their listeners perform pre-recorded sections that fit into each show. How cool is that? Those parts and the rest of the show sound amazing, with carefully added music and effects that bring a touch of the cinematic to your experience. I think the most amazing thing is that they were complete amateurs when they started, and you should really hear how far they've come. It really does make you feel like you're sitting at the table with them. You can join this group of unassuming Australians, otherwise known as the Girls Who Don't D&D, on any device that lets you stream
podcasts, but I'm warning you, this one is addictive, heartwarming, and heartbreaking, and very, very funny, and I hope you enjoy. Bye-bye! Now back to the show.
Frog quickly turns back to her friends and gives a sign with her hands, emulating the peace sign from Freedom's smock.
Let's go!
And she charges towards the Timberblight, channeling her ki to let her move as fast as the wind.
In a flash, Frog is adjacent to the spectral being.
She interrupts his laughter with 2 strikes.
Roll your attacks.
19.
A magical shield springs forth from the Timberblight's wretched fingers, deflecting Frog's fist.
17.
Another miss.
Farah focuses intensely on her crossbow as she whips it out. A bright light of 20 feet bursts from the crossbow. She aims and takes 2 shots.
Roll your attacks.
15, 13.
Both of the bolts also deflect off of the magical projection in front of the Timberblight.
Seeing her companion's attacks fail, Hira casts darkness near the Timberblight and descends into it like a shadow. Before letting the velvety shadows envelop her as Hira slides into the darkness, she casts a careful eye over the Timberblight to try to find any weaknesses.
Hira, make an investigation check.
22.
Before Hira disappears into her own darkness spell, with her keen eye, she clocks the rotation of the spores, noticing the spectral core at the center of this being. As Hira disappears, everyone hears over their earpieces,
Take heart, friends. It's soft in the middle, just like everything else we've killed.
the black spores encircling the Timberblight solidify for a moment around the form, making it look very much like a tall, elvish man, before the spores expand outward 20 feet around the Timberblight. Frog, make a Constitution saving throw, with advantage.
17.
You take 9 points of poison damage, halved to 4, destroying the magical ward around her thanks to Edrin's beads. And as this happens, the Timberblight's form flickers and disappears as he casts invisibility on himself. Though he is invisible, you can still see his rough location by following the swirling of spores.
Timpani pulls out a slab of bark from a butt pocket in his pants and slaps it onto Edrin's shoulder. And as he does, it begins to multiply and cover the entirety of Edrin's body in bark, like a second skin. That ought to make you less squishy.
This is incredible, Timpani.
Hira, make an intelligence saving throw.
18.
Failure.
You think the darkness is gonna hide ye?
The Timberblight reappears just outside the borders of the darkness. Hira takes 12 psychic damage, destroying Edrin's ward and dealing her 8, bringing her to 30 hit points.
Hira's eyes flash with rage and she casts Hellish Rebuke. I will burn you and your ilk to ash!
The Timberblight fails the save.
22 fire damage.
The fire envelops the Timberblight, but with a waving of 2 black spectral hands in a twisting motion, he absorbs a good amount of it, halving the damage to 11.
Edrin charges forward towards the Timberblight, pulling out and wielding the white wand that he took from the Mind Flayer beast. As he swings it forward, he casts Confusion on the Timberblight.
The Confusion spell washes over the Timberblight uselessly.
Ye can't stop me.
Edrin, make an intelligence save.
24.
The Timberblight sends a retaliatory psychic blast at you, which you effectively resist in kind. Poogs dashes up to the Timberblight, wielding a tiny dagger. Poogs begins to cough as he enters the Timberblight's aura of rot, taking 11 damage. But he shakes it off, feeling a second wind wash over him, and recovers 6. Poogs is at 17 health points.
Seeing Poogs leap into action, Frog doubles down and strikes out once again at this Timberblight.
Frog, as you re-enter this thing's aura of poison, make a Constitution saving throw with advantage.
18.
Frog only takes 2 more poison damage, bringing her to 38 points. Roll your attacks.
20. Nat 20. Another nat 20. 17.
4 hits, 2 of which are critical hits.
41 points of bludgeoning damage.
4 motes of light, spinning in place, surround the Timberblight.
Landing her 4th successful blow, Frog's eyes widen as she analyzes this monster.
Analyzing.
Frog determines that the Timberblight is immune to all necrotic damage, resistant to all non-magical attacks, and cannot be blinded, deafened, exhausted, charmed, or frightened. Frog, make an intelligence saving throw.
14.
Frog takes 16 psychic damage, taking her to 22 points of health as the Timberblight attacks with a mind sliver.
Farah takes out Dr. Fitzwaggle's all-purpose pheromones, sighs, all right, let's see if this works, and throws it at the ground by the Timberblight.
Roll an attack.
23.
The bottle slams into the apparition form, shattering and soaking the fungal spores that make up the Timberblight. But nothing happens.
Dr. Fitzwaggle, you con artist! Furious, maybe more at Dr. Fitzwaggle than the Timberblight itself, Farah summons all her energy and points towards the Timberblight, some of her life leaving her, and attempts to bestow a blood curse on the Timberblight.
The Timberblight just barely succeeds the save to resist the curse.
Ah!
Poor old weak thing. Proof that all things do decay in the end.
Hira, at the beginning of your turn, make a Constitution saving throw as the poisonous rot spins around you.
14.
Failure. You take 14 poison damage, bringing you down to 16 points of health. And you become poisoned.
Hira collects herself, although she's inhaling noxious fumes, and tries to strike out towards the heart with her rapier.
Roll your attack.
12.
The Timberblight laughs as your rapier misses wildly.
Seeing that the Timberblight has the upper ground, Hira rapidly disengages and moves back.
Make a Constitution saving throw.
Nat 20.
And exiting the aura of rot shakes her poisoned condition.
Where do you think you're going?
The Timberblight points a long, wretched finger towards you. Make another Constitution saving throw.
5.
Necromantic energy washes over Hira. Hira takes 35 points of necrotic damage, knocking her unconscious in an instant. She falls right next to Farah. Purple steam rises off of Hira's body.
Oh, geez, hello, Hira! Timpani sprints up, charging 2 glowing bits of moss in his hands like a defibrillator, and slams them onto Hira's chest, casting Cure Wounds at 3rd level.
She regains 17 points of health.
Come back! Timpani grabs her hand and pulls her up onto her feet.
When I put them down, they stay down.
Timpani will make an intelligence saving throw.
18.
Failure. Timpani takes 12 psychic damage.
Jordyn moves around the edge of the plateau, bringing Frog and Poogs into the radius of his healing beads while staying out of the Timberblight's range, and casts Confusion once more.
The black apparition wavers as the Timberblight's spectral arm attempts to shield itself from the effect and isn't fast enough.
I think I've got it confused. Now's the time.
As the Timberblight winces, deeply confused by the spell, it desperately throws another psychic mind sliver at Jordyn. Make an intelligence save.
Nat 20.
You easily guard against the sloppy attack. Poogs stabs his dagger into the form, dealing 5 points of piercing damage halved to 2, and uses his action surge to stab again. missing as the apparition dodges him. Still trying to free itself from its confusion, it continues to press Jordyn with another mind sliver. Make another intelligence save.
26.
And still cannot penetrate Jordyn's defenses.
You really don't give up, do you?
Good one, Poogs! Let's show 'em what we got!
Let's do it!
Frog strikes out once more at the Timberblight.
Roll 4 attacks.
28, 11, 22, 28,
3 hits. Roll damage.
26 bludgeoning damage.
3 more motes of light spring up around the Timberblight.
Farah attacks twice. 8, nat 20.
The first bolt is wide, but the second hits the ghostly elvish face right between the eyes.
20 piercing damage, 8 radiant damage.
Coming back to her senses, Hira strafes forward again, brandishing her shining rapier. Nat 20. 40 points of damage.
The Timberblight screams as the rapier pierces its chest.
Rapier flashing in the air once more, she kicks off of the Timberblight's forehead with her hooves and teleports away with a flash of fire.
The Timberblight, shifting quickly, avoids any of the fire damage. Still confused, the ghostly form projecting many elvish faces, all twisted in agony. The Timberblight strikes out at Frog with a black staff made of pure necrotic energy. Frog takes 15 points of bludgeoning damage and 34 points of necrotic damage, and she falls unconscious. And then suddenly, from over Deadman's table, a stampede of elk blast forward and completely trample the Timberblight.
Ye are nothing! Kneel before the power of...
Oh man, what?
Farah, roll 8d10 damage.
34 bludgeoning damage.
This is halved to 17 points of damage as the damage is non-magical, but the Timberblight is dazed.
Timpani puts 2 fingers into his mouth and whistles loudly. And from within the herd of elk, a healing spirit emerges in the form of a glowing elk calf that bounds back towards the party, and especially Frog.
Frog, still prone, regains 10 hit points as the Timberblight shakes off its confusion.
Oh, not again.
Jordyn runs headstrong towards the Timberblight and casts Burning Hands 5 feet in front of it, aiming for the face of this horrible creature.
The Timberblight does not get out of the way in time.
17 points of fire damage.
As the Timberblight's spectral form burns, it turns its attention to Poogs.
No matter what happens here, I'm gonna take something from ye.
And the Timberblight mind slivers Poogs, who rolls a natural 1 on his intelligence save. Poogs takes 30 points of psychic damage. Jordyn's ward is obliterated, and Poogs is knocked back, falling unconscious immediately.
Poogs, no!
And Poogs fails his first death saving throw.
No! Not Poogs!
Frog scoops Poogs up into her arms and channels her ki to disengage from the Timberblight. She dashes over closer to Jordyn, and as she lands, her hands hopped with radiant energy. She claps them together to explode her motes of radiant light.
Roll 7d10 damage.
48 radiant damage.
Frog, how do you want to do this?
With Poogs safely in her arms, Frog watches on as each mote of light explodes. As each mote of radiant damage dissipates, so too does the body of this Timberblight. The spores fizzle as if burned away by this holy touch.
and all is quiet. The necrotic presence vanished.
Timpani walks over sullenly and takes Poogs out of Frog's hands, pulling him into a tight bear hug. And as he does, golden glowing dust poofs out of all of his pockets at once as he casts mass cure wounds on the entire party.
Everyone regains 22 points of health.
Is it over?
Poogs, you were so brave.
So we did it?
We did it.
Timpani is completely stunned. We did it. Oh my gods, we did it! We did it! We did it!
Gods darn it, Dr. Fitzwaggle, you did it.
I never had a doubt in my mind.
Does this mean Timpani, maybe the Slayer's take will let you in now?
Well, they darn right should. But I don't need them anymore. We got each other now, and we did all this in spite of them.
For the first time, Hira puts an arm around Farah and around Idrin, bringing them in.
But we stand here on the shoulders of all the people who helped us get here. With Freedom, Janet, Deuteronomus.
Frog walks over and puts her arm around the group as well.
And Hira knocks on Frog's head, unsure of how to embrace her.
And Poogs and Timpani round out the huddled hug atop Dead Man's table.
I don't know about you guys, but I could use a warm bed and a rest. Should we head back to Himblewood and call it a night?
That sounds good.
Okay, but first,
And Hira puts her fist in the middle of the huddle.
pound it.
Idrin puts his fist in immediately after.
So does Poogs.
Farah joins.
Frog gets her fist in there too.
Timpani puts his hand over all of them and shakes it up and down. Boom! Poogs, I gotta tell you, you're still one heck of a stab squire.
Yeah, but I'm ready to put this thing down for good.
Poogs throws the dagger on top of Dead Man's table and walks beside Timpani. And the Reslayers descend the mountain, hiking down past the dead brambles, carefully descending into the Vesper timberland. Everybody make a wisdom saving throw.
15.
11.
Nat 20.
17.
24.
Farah, Hira, and Frog suddenly seize, frozen in place. Idrin, Poogs, and Timpani unaffected, as 20 armed, mean-looking soldiers descend from the trees, crossbows pointed at the Reslayers take. Well, it has been a long time tracking all of you, but here we are gathered again. Timpani,
Held well?
you have been a thorn in my side for far too long.
And you've been a no-good busybody yourself, mister.
Well, thank you for taking care of the threats for us. But I cannot have this any longer. You have ruined everything. My reputation, my place in the take. And for what? For a bumbling group of morons? Outcasts who should have remained so? Amidst the 20 Slayers Take members, a few very awkward, well-clad adventurers poke their heads out.
Excuse me, Mr. Heldwell, we just want the weapons back. We didn't want to, murder...
Silence! I have endured enough of your idiocy as well. The spectral hand will be dealt with in due time, and you will be paid what your abysmally annoying presence has been worth. Everyone, please kill the Reslayers Take. And then suddenly, there is a voice from the middle of the gathered Reslayers Take, and a gnome steps forward.
Oh, slow down there, hot stuff. Is this what you do when Osissa rubs your nose in it? Sweeney, don't you dare!
Oh, it's already done, my guy. Sorry, Heldwell.
No! Fire!
Crossbows raise, bolts fire, but the Reslayers take, in a whoosh of magical energy, are teleported away. Freed from their magical paralysis, they slam into the ground, looking up to find themselves in a small bakery.
Well, here they are, the Reslayers take, just like you asked.
Good. About time.
There's a man in the corner of this bakery who pushes his chair back and stands, entering the firelight.
So, you're the Reslayers take. My name is Kashaw Vesh. Osisa wants to speak to you. Immediately.
The Reslayers Take is a Metapigeon production in partnership with and distributed by Critical Role Productions, developed in association with Euroclub. Game mastered and produced by George Primavera and Nick Williams. Featuring Nick Williams as Timpani Guff, George Primavera as Poogs, Jasmine Bhullar as Hira Agniheart, Jasmine Chiong as Farah, Jasper Cartwright as Edrin Shadowstep, and Caroline Lux as Frog. With special guest Sam Riegel as Freedom Windsong. Also featuring Lelia Symington as the Hug Hive Goblin, Dylan McCollum as Gavain, Jack Quaid as Sweeney, and Will Friedle as Kashaw Vesh. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
We open on a frigid, misty morning in Athansia, amongst hickory trees wading in mist. The bright green and yellow leaves of these trees are muted by a thin layer of frost that even now, as the sun peaks over the horizon, is beginning to drip away into the grass. Far in the distance, Vasselheim, the Dawn City, seems to glow as the early morning light mixes with a wave of fog coming off the sea. Overlooking this wholesome scene, a hooded figure with a golden metallic face stands on the ridgeline, taking in the scene before continuing down the path towards the city.